asthma occurs in about 13% of teenagers from Kenyan studies and 11% of children who are in primary school. So 1 out of every 10 children has asthma. It's fairly common in Kenya. This is Kenya statistics. It's a bit more common in children living in the cities than in those who are living in rural settings. And this is probably because in the city, the air is not as clean. You have much more pollution and much more overcrowding in homes. Yeah, but the difference is not too big, maybe a 2-3% difference between those who are living in the cities and those who are living in the rural area. So asthma is quite common in children and in teenagers. You know that your child has asthma if they keep getting chest problems. And how do you know what type of chest problems? They keep having a problem with coughing, congestion in their chest, or they say, my chest is blocked, I can't breathe very well. Or sometimes you can hear wheezing, a whistling sound. Whee, whee. Now, these are symptoms often, they're the same as when you get a common cold or a throat infection. So how will you know that these symptoms that your child has are likely due to asthma and not due to just having a common cold? With asthma, these symptoms tend to be worse at night. They come at night like 2 a.m. when the air gets very cold because their lung doesn't like the cold air. And towards morning, they continue to have this coughing, shortness of breath. And then as the day gets warm, then the symptoms disappear. And you wonder, was this the same child who was so sick at night, but now they're completely fine? A common cold or a throat infection doesn't behave like that. The other thing is you might also notice that for some children, this chest gets disturbed by things in the air that their chest doesn't like. Now, common things are pollen, like if they're playing in a place where there's very long grass, or they've just cut the grass, there's a lot of pollen in the air, or a lot of flowers, then when they're in that place, then you hear them having these symptoms. So it's triggered by pollen. For other children, it's triggered by running a lot, exercise. Actually, it's quite common with children. So you'll notice that my child runs a lot, then after some time, they start to cough and get congested in their chest. So the other thing is that it tends to recur during the cold seasons or when there's a change of season, and it lasts for longer than expected. So if your child has these recurrent or persisting symptoms, it's most likely that they have asthma. Now, most diseases are treated by giving syrups or tablets by mouth or by injections. Now, asthma is a bit unique because the problem is only in the chest. And so nowadays we have really wonderful drugs that can be given only into the chest. Now, if you give the asthma medicine, as we used to do many years ago, the syrup, you'd have to give 100 times more medicine in 1 teaspoonful. The medicine will get into the stomach and it will take 1 hour to go around and finally get its way to the lung. It takes a long time for it to help the child. But now we have much better drugs which are in a spray form. This is what we call an inhaler and spacer. And inside it has the medicine in a bottle. So with children, what you do is you shake the medicine, remove the cover, and when you spray like that, the medicine can go into the child. Now with adults, they can actually spray directly in their mouth, but children can't do it very well because it needs you to coordinate. So with children, we help them to breathe the medicine comfortably using this gadget, which we call a spacer, okay? So we spray the medicine. So you place this into here, and you spray the medicine into here, and then this will be placed on my baby's face, making sure that there are no gaps, because if there's gaps, some of the medicine will get lost. So you get the right size, and then you put it there, and you spray like this. And then the child just breathes normally, and you count to 10 breaths. By the time they've taken 10 breaths, all the medicine, the spray, will have gone nicely into their lungs, and it starts working immediately. Within 60 seconds of breathing this medicine, if your child is struggling to breathe, it's like magic. The lungs start to open up and they start coughing less and they're able to get air into their lungs, and then the asthma attack gets down. So usually you'll give, that's like what we call one puff. Depending on how bad it is, you might give a second puff of the medicine, and you count, they breathe 10 times. These are for children under 5 years. Children older than 5 years can often use this gadget, and you can spray it. You can spray it direct. All the children and even teenagers don't like carrying things like this. So for all the children, I'll just use the baby as an example. They can put it directly in their mouth and you spray, and then the child takes a deep breath. If they're older, they can actually take a deep breath and hold it for up to 5 seconds, and the medicine will have gone nicely deep into the lungs, and the asthma attack, the lungs start to open up. The pipes that are blocked and tight like this, they start to open up. So for older children, they can just use this spacer. Now, this spacer is really good because a much higher amount of the medicine gets into the lungs than if you just spray directly. Yeah. So we have different types of medicines for children with asthma. They work very well. One medicine is for taking every day. And what it does, it gets in there and it calms down their lungs, stops it from overreacting to running, overreacting to things in the air. And it allows a child to play their football without getting their asthma attack. It allows them to have a normal life without getting sick all the time. So that's what we call a controller medicine. It controls the asthma. It tells the lungs, calm down, don't overreact to these things in the air. And then we have a second type, which is like a salbutamol, which they only use when they get an asthma attack. And that one they will just use for a few days until the lungs open up and they'll be fine. So that's medicine for asthma. It really works well. Your child will be healthy, enjoy a normal life, and they'll grow up with good lungs. Thank you. Some children, as they grow older, the asthma symptoms get less. Asthma is, for most children, is an allergic chest problem. And as you know, with allergies are usually part of you and they'll be with you for most of your life. Now, children who have allergic asthma, or theirs is a chest allergy, often it is worse in the first 5 years of life and then gets better. But when they get to teenage years, for some of them, it comes back, okay? Something to do with the hormones of puberty. For other children, they will have their asthma symptoms throughout there until they grow up. And for a few other children, they will have only the symptoms in the first few years of life. And then for some reason, as they grow older, their chest gets used to these things in the air and the asthma disappears. So it's different for every child. For those who have allergic asthma, it's just very important to know that they do have it and to watch out for the symptoms. So they might have problems in the first 5 years and then it disappears. And then when they're 14 years, suddenly, when they're playing sports, they get sick, they start to have an asthma attack. Just always be aware that there's possibly a risk of my child getting that attack. But most of them can be healthy with asthma medication.